And I also want to thank Anne from ACT for providing the captions today. You have two choices for the captions. Number one, in the Zoom, and number two, the link that I provided for today's presentation on transition planning for students who are deaf and hard of hearing. We'll be discussing the program called mapil. And I want to thank again Cindy for coming today to provide this presentation. We have the chat if you want to discuss what's happening throughout the presentation, and we also have the questions and the answers, and we will try to answer those throughout the presentation. If we need it, we can even stop it and share the answer for everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Cindy so she can present today for us, and thank you again.
Thank you. I will start sharing my screen. And here is our presentation. So this is a very long and involved curriculum. I've got a lot of different slides to show you today because I want you to get a full taste of the curriculum. And at any point you have questions, just type those in and Kara's going to let me know about that. So let's get started. The transition curriculum mapil is now hosted by the Described and Captioned Media program. It was originally developed by PetNet2, another federally funded project, and that project went away about 3 years ago when the funding changed. And we were fortunate enough to get the modules that they had developed and be able to host those on the DCMP website. If you are not a DCMP member, you're going to want to go and sign up for a full account because we have a ton of other resources, not just this transition curriculum. We have a video library of over 8,000 educational videos you can stream on demand. So you're going to want to use those along with the mapil curriculum since we have a lot of transition videos separate from the curriculum. If you are wanting RID CEUs, this is going to be the first code. Kara's going to post the link. There's an online forum. After you've watched the training, you'll go to that forum and fill in some information. And it's going to ask for an opening code and a closing code. And that's just a way to verify that you watched the entire training. So the first one is transition. You're going to want to write that down and remember it if you're asking for CEUs. DCMP is an approved RID sponsor, so that's why we're able to offer these. And even if you don't need RID CEUs, you can still go and fill out that form and request a certificate of completion. We also, you might want to watch the DCMP website because we have some other online trainings that we offer as well that you can earn CEUs for. So let's talk a little bit about transition. First of all, it's the process of changing from one state or a condition. It's a period of change. Actually, students from the moment they're born are in transition. And we hope that parents and families and schools are preparing students to transition out of school into either post-secondary education or into the workforce from the minute they enter kindergarten and first grade. However, what we know is that that doesn't always happen. A lot of times the transition process for students, especially those with who are deaf and hard of hearing, doesn't start until it's legally mandated. And so we end up with trying to do some things at the last minute. We know that students should begin the transition process as young as possible. They need to take responsibility for themselves. They need a lot of self-knowledge. We need to create opportunities for them to learn about the real world. And this is often more difficult because you have to create those moments of learning since a lot of incidental learning is lost. And too often we teach students dependence simply because it's easier. I worked in post-secondary services for quite a number of years, and we often got students who would come into college, and I remember one showing up maybe a week or two into classes wanting to know where their interpreter was, because in high school they went to class, an interpreter showed up, and they never had to do anything. And this was the first we'd heard that we had a deaf student on campus. So they're often taught, dependence because it's easier to do things as opposed to having them learn how to self-advocate. But hopefully this training is going to help alleviate some of that, because it provides a lot of the things we know we need to do but are so time intensive we don't always get around to doing them. So this training was actually designed to be very flexible in how you use it. It has three main sections: who am I, what do I want, and how do I get there. So in the first section, who am I, there's a lot of self-analysis. There are a lot of little surveys and quizzes to help students figure out things about themselves. One of the first ones is talking about self-identity. It seems like such a simple thing, but so many deaf and hard of hearing students really don't develop a unique self-identity until they leave home. And so they need to do a lot of analysis about themselves. Then what do I want? They figure out what are my dreams and my goals, as opposed to maybe what my parents dreams for me or what my teachers think I should or am able to do. And then they work through the process of how to get there. Any of these sections can be done independently, and some can be done multiple times. It was basically designed to start maybe 7th grade through high school, and even a few years after graduation. But it's very flexible in that I think you can start some of these with even younger students, and some of the self-analysis you can repeat throughout the years so students can see how they grow and change. So high school students, recent graduates, those are all really good populations to use this with. It's fully accessible to all students who are deaf and hard of hearing. Everything is signed, captioned, and voiced. So I'm going to show the introductory video so you can get an idea of what the training is going to look like and the feel of the training.
Hi, I'm Sam.
And I'm Brooke.
We have a unique program to tell you about. We call it Mapil. What comes next? It will help you think about your life, what you want, and how to get it. It's really a neat program. You know, planning your future is not simple. It has lots of steps that all need to be part of a plan. Like when you're planning a trip. You can't take off without planning first. You need a plan before taking off on your future. And that's why we call this Mapil. What comes next? You have to know what steps you need to get to your destination.
Even though I'm 22 years old and have graduated from high school, I remember when I was in high school. I couldn't wait to be done. After I graduated, I got a full-time job. Recently, I was laid off. I hope to go to school to get training and find a job that pays more money. I thought I knew what I wanted to do in my life, but I found out it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. I didn't realize I had so many decisions to make as I planned my future. I really needed a map. Looking back, I wonder if this program would have helped me.
I think it would have. Even though I'm 19 and going to community college, there's still a lot I need to learn. To help me decide what I want to do in the future, you may not know yet what you want to do, whether you go to college, what kind of job you might want to have, or where you live. But you can start learning now about the choices available to you. The more you learn, the more you will discover what is or is not a good fit for you. Then you can begin to make decisions about your future based on real knowledge, not just a feeling or a guess. Even if you're still in high school, this is a good time to learn about yourself as you explore different jobs and develop new goals.
You'll also learn that it is important to get other people's opinions when making big decisions, but that the choices you make about your future are ultimately yours to make.
Okay, so that's just one sample of a video that's included in the training. Now let's look at the navigation a little bit. As I said, this training is very in-depth, and it's actually meant to be used as a full transition guide. It can be used over one semester or actually a whole year, depending on how you break up what's included in it. For that reason, the navigation can be a little confusing at first until you learn. So if you're using this with a student, I recommend that you go through and become very, very familiar with how to navigate and get there. And to do that, let's first start with where you find it. Kara posted the URL for the DCMP e-learning resources page. When you land on this page, scroll down just a little bit and you're going to see Map It, what comes next. When I click on that, it's going to take me to a page that tells me about Map It. And you can see that there are quite a few resources here for teachers. There's also a complete teacher curriculum. We'll come back and talk about that a little later. But go to Map It. You click there, and it's going to take you to an e-learner dashboard. Now, my dashboard, I've already completed the training, and so it's going to take me into the training where I last left off. You would see it listed under opportunities and be able to click there and go into it. But it is nice that once you or your student gets started, they're able to go in and it saves their place, so they're always able to go back to where they left off. And you'll see in the navigation along the left-hand side, there are little check marks next to each section that those students or you have completed. Now, let me say this, and you may come back with questions later. For a full DCMP account, only adults can sign up for those. Students under the age of 18 aren't allowed to. And that means they're not allowed to access the full video curriculum that we have, because there are some topics that need supervision that would not be appropriate for younger students. With Map It, however, they can sign up for an e-learner account. Anyone can sign up for that, even if they don't qualify to use all of the videos. And that's what you're going to want to do, is have the students sign up for that e-learner account so their Map It account is under their name, as opposed to a teacher signing up and letting multiple students use that one account. The reason you want to do this is so that student can sign in and see where they left off. They can go back and check off what they've done. And we'll show in a few minutes some of the activities they're going to do, and they're going to want to have that saved under their individual account. So across the top, you have Start Here. You have Who Am I? what do I want, how do I get there, and their certificate. Those are all the main areas so that they can go in and jump to a section. And then once they're in a section, they see down the left side what part or chapter of it they're on. Some of the resources across the top, there are the character profiles. These are the student characters that your students can go in and read about and hopefully identify with. There are additional resources. There's a glossary. There's a portfolio where all of that student's individual assignments are saved. And then there are the assessments. And you always have along the top the previous and next so that they can go step by step, or using the left-hand menu, jump to a specific section. With the character profiles, this is what I was meaning. We have 12 different students that were used as examples for this curriculum. And each of the students has an introduction. They talk about themselves, and they're all quite unique. We have some who are culturally deaf and from deaf families and use ASL. We have some who have cochlear implants, but they may sign. We have some who are strictly oral and use their residual hearing and they speak for themselves. We have some that use cued speech. We wanted a variety of students with different ethnic and cultural backgrounds, but we also wanted to represent the full gambit of hearing loss so that no matter what student you're working with, they're going to be able to find someone they can identify with and say, that person's like me. And throughout the curriculum, they'll be able to refer to what their self-identified mentor is responding, and it may help them understand themselves even better. Not all of the student profiles come with videos. We only have a few of those, and here's an example of one.
Hey, my name is Steven, and I'm 18 years old and junior in high school. I live with my mom and dad, and I was born with progressive hearing loss. 5 years ago, I got cochlear implant. I attended to a high school that had a program for kids who are deaf and hard of hearing. We use varieties of communication, but it depends on the situation.
If there's not a video to go along with a student profile, it's all in text. So this way, like I said, your students will hopefully find somebody they can identify with. I will say that all of the videos the students do sign, and we did that for an accessibility issue because we wanted to make sure that if a student does use sign language, all of the videos would be accessible to them. But there are non-signing character profiles as well. So in the first section, it goes through and the students learn about themselves. And they talk about their strengths and their weaknesses, their traits. They talk about how they self-identify. And this one may seem a little interesting at first, but a lot of students believe in the labels that they're given by their school or by their parents. And they've never really thought about how they want to identify themselves. So they're asked, do you want to be called deaf, hard of hearing? What is your preferred label? And they can go in, if they don't understand a word, anything that is highlighted and underlined is a clickable link. And it links to a pop-up glossary where there's a written definition of what deaf and hard of hearing means, and then there is someone who signs that definition. So throughout the training, if there are any words that they struggle with, they can refer back to the glossary and learn more about that. They look at each of the different students, and they're probably going to pick their favorite or the one that they most identify with, and they may follow that student throughout the training and see what they have to say. And so they look at not just how they want to self-identify, but the different communication modes that they may use. And they also look at if they communicate differently in different situations. And each of the role models will talk about how they do that as well. They'll go in and fill out this little form that says, okay, what's your preferred communication mode at school? How about with your family? How about with your friends? They can always click in the top right-hand corner and see a drop-down of the student profiles, and then see how that student that they may identify with has answered these questions. And so Stephen has a cochlear implant, and he's in a mainstream program. So he may start using speech more. We have he talks about at home, he uses his voice, but he may also sign a little bit. Whereas Brooke is culturally deaf. She uses an interpreter at school, and she uses ASL with her family and her friends. So it's nice for the students to be able to see differences. Then we go in and talk about hard and soft skills. And there are videos to accompany each of these, because the concept of hard and soft skills is not, even when we were making this training, it wasn't an easy thing to define. And so I know a lot of deaf and hard of hearing students may struggle with this. Then they go through and they take a little quiz to find out what their hard and soft skills are. One of the questions is rate your reading skill. And with each of these questions, there's a video they can click on that will describe what it's talking about, so that they can understand, oh, is reading a strength or is reading a weakness for me? And then they go and they have this chart after they've answered all of the questions, and they see their rating in each of these areas to say, oh, these are where my strengths are and these are where my weaknesses are. And then they ask them to analyze their hard and soft skills a little bit more. Once they've gone through that, we talk about their team. Everyone has a group of people that supports them. No one succeeds on their own. So we look at the educational team. Who are the people who help you the most? Are they teachers, counselors, interpreters, the principal, or speech audiologist, speech therapist, the employment team, and their life team? And they go through and they check off who these people are that they can turn to for support. And then we talk about the differing perspectives. Sometimes it's not easy to have a realistic picture of ourselves. We may think we're really good at something when we're not. We may think we're really bad at something when we're not. And so it's good for students to be able to compare, here are what I thought my strengths and weaknesses were, and here's what my team tells me they are. Do we have the same perspective, or are they a little bit different, and why might that be? So it's a good start in their self-analysis, but also in learning that not everyone sees everything the same way. Next, it goes into a values assessment. And again, it's a quiz that they go through, and each of the questions is signed, voiced, and captioned. And then they choose what is important to them, if it's not at all, somewhat, or very important. The idea of assessing their values is going to help them in choosing a career eventually. And they learn how their values relate into that. So if being socially conscious is very important to them, then they want to choose a career that's going to support that and not one that would go against their values. Then they take a personality test. Again, it shows the question and they choose one of these answers, and all of these questions are signed and the answers are explained. So it helps them to choose which fits their personality the best. Then they get their code back. Many of you are probably familiar with the Myers-Briggs test, and that's what this is based on. It's a bit abbreviated, but it gives them standardized feedback that they can share and is likely that other people can relate to. But they learn about their personality. And I think this is so important because often students haven't learned to connect personality and values with a career. I've talked with students who want to be computer programmers, and they choose that career because they think they'll earn a lot of money, and that's their only goal. And then you talk with them and say, well, do you like being around people? Do you want a lot of interaction and socialization at work? Or do you want to be on your own most of the time? And they'll say, oh no, I really like to socialize. And you explain, well, most computer programmers sit in a cubicle and they interact with their computer all day, but there's not a lot of human contact. And if you really need that human contact, then this is going to be a job that would probably make you miserable. I think it's really important for them to analyze these sorts of things and figure it out before they start their college career, because I think the average now is that most students entering college are going to change their majors at least 3 times. And we all know that wastes time and money. So hopefully we can help students get on the right track before they ever get to college and they don't get derailed then. So that's a summary of the first section and what all the students are going to learn. This is a section I really recommend that you go through multiple times. Maybe do it when they're in 7th grade, again in 9th, and again in 11th. All of the assessments they take will be saved, and they can go back and they can review, oh, in 7th grade, I said I wanted to be this, I had these values. I took the test again 2 years later and things changed. Or maybe they didn't change. But it helps them to see how they may be growing even in just a short time. And it's kind of fun for us to see how they may be changing as well. In section 2, the important question of what do I want? As I said, you know, some students pick a career based on one aspect alone. And we want them to choose a career that they can be satisfied and fulfilled and earn enough money to be independent. And that will last them a lifetime. That's not always easy. So we talk about career planning, and let's watch this video.
Have you had a chance to think about what you want to do for a career? It's not an easy decision. Planning your future career is ongoing. Let's look at some career planning steps that will help you think about your future, school, and career decisions. It's best to create a career plan that explores and identifies a possible good fit for you.
The first step to career planning is to know yourself. You do this by identifying your values, interests, and skills. The second step is to explore your options. Think about your choices and what each one involves. When you're choosing a career direction, find out about the jobs that interest you, and then talk to people in those fields. See if you can get experience by volunteering, working part-time, or job shadowing.
When they start learning about the career exploration, they talk about the different traits within each career and what their goal is within that trait. So they can learn about many of these jobs through taking a part-time job or even volunteer opportunities. And gaining that real-world experience is very important to helping them make an informed decision. They talk among themselves about choosing a career that's going to fit their identity and their personality best. It goes back and it takes that personality assessment and applies those traits to different career opportunities. So this individual who is an introvert is intuitive, a feeler, and a judger. Some of the career fields that might match best are teacher, photographer, librarian, to name a few. So they can look at, oh, these are some areas that might fit my personality. It's not to say that they can't do something else, but it helps them start to think and to make that informed decision, so they're not just pulling a job out that they've heard about and they think for whatever reason might be the best one for them. There's a lot of analysis done. Then we look at the different career clusters, and this is important because a lot of students don't have a really good understanding of what the jobs that are out there are. So it's important to look and realize that the one job you may have heard of has a lot of different branches to it. So if a student says they want to be a vet, they may not want to spend an additional however many years to be in vet school after they finish their bachelor's degree. They may not have the money, or they may not have the aptitude. But if what they are what about being a vet interests them is working with animals, then they can look at being a vet tech. Some of the other jobs associated with the field, maybe they want to become a dog trainer, a dog groomer. There are a ton of different jobs within each of these clusters, and the students get to explore those to see if any of those outlets would be appropriate for them. So they go through and they choose some of the jobs they want to do some more research on. They analyze what they want to get out of a job, what they think an average day at work is going to be, if they're going to be alone or with people, if they're going to be the only deaf or hard of hearing person there, and is that going to be a positive or a negative, if they want to work in an office or outdoors. They do a lot of analysis and think through what the job involves and how that's going to match up with what they want. Then we link to an external website called Virtual Job Shadow. And it's really nice that through this training you have access to this website. It's a for-fee website, actually, and we're very fortunate to have access to all of these. And they have thousands of videos, which are all accessible. And students can go in and watch little snippets. The videos average 1 to 2 minutes in length. And there will be one general video talking about the job, and then there'll be several others where they interview somebody in that job so they can learn more about it. It's a really nice way for the students to get some experience in researching jobs and learning more about them. Then they go through and they, think about, is this job a good fit for me? What level of education do I want? What level of education is that job going to require? Is the salary going to meet my needs? Even though some jobs come with a very high salary. For example, being a doctor. Most doctors don't make very much for the first few years because they're busy paying off the debt they owe to school. And so looking at that can be really important. And it's not always something we think about up front. Then they go through and they develop goals. And this is really important because if they say my goal is to become a vet, a computer programmer, or whatever, that is a very long-term goal. And it can seem way out there, and they can be very positive about it, or they can be very negative. But it's hard to put that in concrete terms. So what we do is go in and we start writing out the steps that's going to take to get to that goal. And they set some short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. And so their first step might be, I want this job that's going to require a college degree. Well, my grades might not be great. So my first step might be that I'm going to work really hard this semester to improve my grades. And each year they're going to have goals that they set and things that they are manageable, that they can obtain, and they can see themselves making progress. Then they write out the steps and they create their plan. And then they talk about managing roadblocks. Nothing is ever as we plan it. As soon as you write out that plan, things begin to change. So we want to find out, how are you going to handle the obstacles that you may face? This is one example where a deaf individual wants to work as in a daycare center. But one of the roadblocks is none of the other people who work there can sign, and she doesn't voice. And so at first she thinks, oh, I can't do it. I'm just going to have to find something else. But then she talks with her VR counselor, and they go through and work out some ideas of how she can communicate with her coworkers, maybe writing notes back and forth, maybe teaching them some basic signs. And they find a solution, or at least some things for her to try. And this is, even if the specifics don't work out, this is a great opportunity to talk about problem solving and how we get around those problems we may have. So section 2, this is what they've learned. They've had some experience looking at different jobs. They're encouraged to do some job shadowing, some volunteer work, and to meet people in those careers. They've gone through some of the videos in the Career Clusters website and to explore the different options. They've set up goals and they've set up ways to achieve them. Next, we go into how do you get there? And this is a really important part of the training because it's not always easy to get what you've decided that you want. This is one of my favorite videos in the whole training because they talk about the difference between self-determination and self-advocacy. And these are two really important words that we in education throw around a lot. And it may not be that the students really understand what these mean. So I'm going to share this video.
Hey, class was kind of interesting today, huh? Yeah, I guess it was all right. They kept talking about us taking responsibility and making our own decision and being independent. Really, it's pretty simple. The teacher was saying that our experiences shape our future, that we need self-determination to get there, that we need to start now before we graduate, that the decisions we make now will guide us. Self-determination is important for our future. I don't know. I kind of like the idea. Yeah, in a way it does sound good, but I get self-determination confused with self-advocacy. Okay, Well, self-determination means you take control of your own life and make your own decisions. Other people don't decide for you. Self-advocacy is when you tell others that you don't want them to decide for you. You have to tell people because they can't read your mind.
Okay, you make it sound so easy. But how can we make our own decisions when our parents and teachers tell us what to do?
Who picked out your glasses?
Hey, are you making fun of my style?
No. Well, maybe a little. The point is, it's our life, and as we get older, we have to start making more decisions about our future, not just what we want.
Thanks a lot. No, really, I understand what you mean. But what about that IEP meeting? Are you really going to do more of the talking there and take charge like Mr. Anderson wants us to do? I'm not sure I'm ready for that.
Yep, I know what you mean about not feeling ready. But if you don't take the lead and let them make the decisions for you, good luck. Last year, I didn't really say much during my IEP meeting, and now I don't like any of my classes, and I didn't get into the auto mechanic class. It's very frustrating.
Huh. So what now?
You know, my uncle owns a car repair shop, and I think I'd like to work there full-time when I graduate. Maybe even own my own business later.
Have you told anybody that's what you want to do? Maybe your uncle could give you some tips on how to work there full-time. Like, maybe you need to take a training program or take a specific high school class. You're lucky because you already know what you want.
Yeah, I guess my self-determination is done, but now I have to figure out how to get there. I think that's where the self-advocacy comes in, but I'm struggling with that. I need to stick up for myself and my decisions.
Maybe I should start thinking about my IEP and doing something different this year. I figure I have to tell people what I want for my future. What do you think?
I think you're right. If I really want to become a mechanic, nobody knows that better than me. Whoops, I'm late. Gotta run.
Later.
Brandon and Allison are learning about self-determination and self-advocacy. Did you know that the people who have the easiest time being self-determined and advocating for themselves are those that know themselves the best?
Really?
Yeah. People who know what they like and who understand their unique strengths, personalities, and maybe even limitations have an easier time talking about what is important for them and what they want. It's like a puzzle where all the pieces fit together perfectly.
You're right. That makes sense. The more you learn about yourself, the easier it is to be self-determined. Because going through that process helps you know yourself better.
So I love that video. I think it's very helpful for the students. And they learn a lot about how to stand up for themselves in appropriate ways and how to guide their career future. Next, they learn about the accommodations in the law. This is also a very important section because if they're going to advocate for what they want, they also need to know how to appropriately advocate for what they need as far as accommodations. They need to know their differences between what they may receive in high school and what they may receive in college or on the job. And the more they understand these laws, the more they can work to self-advocate and get their needs met. At this point, they can choose a path, and the training divides a little bit. They can say, oh, I want to go directly from high school to a job, or oh, I think I'm going to go to college or training first. We recommend that you actually go through both paths, but if they don't want to, they're not required to. When they choose, then we talk about on the jobs path, the importance of disclosure. And this is one of those really tricky topics because legally they can disclose at any point that they have a disability and it should not affect employment. But we all know in reality when you disclose can make a big difference. For example, I know one student who was trying to get into an internship, and it was something in sports medicine, I believe. And there were several facilities in the area who called back to find out more about the student and to talk with them about the internship. One of those places called, and the student's girlfriend answered the phone. And when she let them know that he was actually deaf, they were no longer interested. And we all know that that's not legal, but it does happen. And unfortunately. So the importance of disclosure and when to go about it and how to do it is a good life lesson. There are some samples of how to do it, and to help the students feel more comfortable, they may want to do some role playing so that they've got practice in this area. Then they start the job search, and we go through and look at where you're going to start looking and how you're going to find that job. This is where they go back to the online website for Career Central, and they start investigating a limited number of jobs a little more closely. Another visual of the website, very in-depth and lots of really good information. So I hope you'll go in and at least explore that part. Then they talk about whether this job is a really good fit for them. They go back and match it up with their identity, their strengths, their weaknesses, their hard and soft skills, how much money they need to make, their education level, where they want to live. Another one that a lot of people don't think about, but there are certain jobs that if you want to live in an urban area, you might not want that job, or if you want to live in a rural area. There are certain limitations that we don't always think of when we first start looking at jobs. So this one is very in-depth and talks about all of those possibilities. They have a guided exercise where they fill all of this in. And again, all of these exercises they can go through multiple times, so they can look at different jobs, or maybe over the years review the same job and see if things have changed. Then we talk about the additional resources they have, such as VR, Ticket to Work, one-stop centers, commission or office for deaf and hard of hearing in their state. All of this information we tried to keep as general as possible because we realize it really is dependent upon a specific area, a specific state, but it allows the students to start looking at what they might find in their area. So this, and it changes a lot too. So we didn't want this to be very specific. This is one to just kind of open the door and say, here are things to look for, and then they're going to do this research more on their own. We also have a second training that's linked in here called Getting a Job. If the students are going through mapil, they're not going to notice a change at all. It's going to lead directly into this training. But they can go into it outside of mapil and just do this training on its own. It talks about writing a resume, doing an interview, again, a lot of different things they may need to know about. And all of the videos included are accessible with voice, sign, and captions. Both of these trainings have supporting documentation. The teacher curriculum guide is relatively new. It's been out about 3 years now, and all of that's on the website. I showed you the link earlier where you can get to it. Printed out, this is about a 300-page document. In electronic format, it's really nice because you can kind of scroll through and read it online and only print what you need. There are some worksheets in there that you might want to print out to use with your students. But the whole idea is to make this a full curriculum that teachers can use, because we recognize that transition is an important part of learning. However, there are very few transition materials specifically for deaf and hard of hearing, and that's what this wanted to cover. And it wanted to give it as a resource so that teachers didn't have to do a lot of outside work on their own. It's kind of all in one package. The nice thing is parents can use this at home with their students as well. And you may have some recent graduates, or maybe a student who has gone to a couple of years of college and not made good decisions. They're not sure what they want to do. They could come back and use it at any time. I've even had a few older deaf individuals who maybe worked at a company for a while and then were laid off, or downsized, or whatever you want to call it, and they may want to go back and use this as they're starting a second career. So that's the end of section 3, and I'm going to just skip through the closing video. As students complete each of the sections, the main 3, they can print a certificate, and then there's also a certificate for the overall training. We wanted to add those intermediate certificates because doing the whole training, as I said, could be spread out over a year, and we didn't want students to feel like they weren't making progress. So there are actually 4 different certificates that they learn throughout the training they can earn. Now back to CEUs. If you're asking for CEUs, Kara has posted the link to the online form you're going to fill out. This is the closing code you're going to need, self-determination. So students can go in and, so you can go in, type this as your closing code and get those CEUs and a certificate. I'm just going to skip right here. I've got several slides here that list videos related to transition that are in the DCMP collection. Just wanted to show you those, and those will be listed in the printout or the handouts for this presentation. Kara's already shared that link with you, so you'll have all of those, and because they're in a PDF document, they're clickable and you can link directly to them. So that is a lot of the information we have. Just a few minutes left here. I'm going to stop sharing, and Kara can come back in and we'll answer any questions you may have.
Okay, we're opening it up if there are any questions. I will say that I used to use Mapit when I was in the classroom and loved it. I can't believe all the new things that have been added just recently in like the last 5 years. It's really changed and really improved. So we have a question. I know it says it takes about a year to go through the curriculum. What do you think that it is in hours to finish this?
I really don't know. I think it's going to depend on the student. Some students are going to be able to quickly go through it themselves. Some are requiring more guidance and more assistance. So I'm sorry, I don't know an hour count.
In my experience, I would do it, I was an itinerant, so I only had a little bit of time and I had to still work on reading and everything else. So I would take like every month, one time to work on this. And I would take it over them for year after year after year. So I would do different parts each year and then go more in depth each year. And then some of it I would be copying like you explained before so that we can compare results from one year to the next year. So it just depends, like some sections, they're not ready until junior or senior year. It's really not appropriate. I didn't start it until 8th grade, and I used it in 8th grade, that whole, the self-identity. And then, you know, the next year I would add on the second one. So I just think it's beautiful for that. Any more questions?
I'm seeing a question in the list and ask if you could post the link to the presentation again.
And I just did that right up there. It says presentation, drive, google.com file. And when I upload it to our website, I'll also post the presentation there too. Okay. Well, I want to thank you again, Cindy, for coming and presenting. This is wonderful information. It's one of my favorite resources when I was in the classroom. Also, we want to thank our CART provider, Ann Armstrong, from Alternative Communication Services, for providing our captions today. We will be back again next month for our last TA Live of the year, and that will be May 9th. Thursday, May 9th, 2019. And we will have Candace McIntyre from the Deaf, Hard of Hearing specialist from Duval, which is in Jacksonville, Florida, the specialist for the deaf and hard of hearing. And she'll be presenting on tips and strategies for teaching students who are deaf and hard of hearing on the mainstream curriculum who use ASL. And she's also, I forgot, the FIDA president. So we thank you guys all for being here today. Oh, I need to add that link. One more link. We need you guys to give us feedback on how this presentation went. And we need that for Cindy because we are grant funded, and this helps us to continue providing these trainings. That link for you guys. You guys could just fill out that survey. It's really, really fast, and that will help us. And thank you again, and we will see you guys next month. And I think that is it. Oh, and the CEUs we have, what did we decide until the end of the month? Right, okay. So if you've missed the first word, you'll have to go back and watch it. Sorry, those are the rules. But share it with your other coworkers that they can watch this and also earn those CEUs. So I'm going to stop the video now. So thank you. Okay, wonderful. So thank you, Cindy. And
thank you for inviting me. It was good to see you again.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
I did the wrong one.